Okay.
And we just started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. This is our pre-show. We're just kind of getting everybody ready. Now, today we actually have two guests and two co-hosts at the same time. So it's sort of interesting. But I feel surrounded by very British beauty. This is wonderful. My life,
Scottish,
my
please,
life is good. Well,
Scottish.
okay, you're right. Scottish. One is Scottish, and the other one is actually American, who thinks she's British. We don't want to bust her bubble.
Who thinks she's British? Was only born there.
Oh, you were born in Britain.
That means nothing to me.
Yep.
Vienna.
Yep. So Linda was actually born in Britain of American parents, and then raised a lot in Austria and Germany, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I have the two passports, the American and the British.
Right. Right. Yeah, I was thinking I could actually have an Italian passport based on my father's my great-grandfathers were from Italy and from northern Italy, so technically they call it jus sanguineus, or by right of blood. I could actually have an Italian passport, and I was thinking, why would I want an Italian passport? I don't know.
I'm sorry, I'm Scottish through and through, all the way back. I've done my family history all the way back to the early 1800s. The only good news was my great-great-grandfather was a smuggler.
Ah. Now, how did Emma Peel fall into that whole story?
Well, because I mean, it's the tradition in Scotland was, Scotland. The people were, a lot of them were very, very poor. The family history I've done was my family came from crofting family, and also were miners. And one of them, who was a farmer, became a fisherman, and then he tried to earn more money, went down onto the River Clyde and became a river boatman, which was effectively a smuggler.
Interesting. That's pretty good. Well, I do have something Scottish in my possession at home, and that is a real replica, a real one. It is a battle-ready replica of a William Wallace sword.
Wow.
My Braveheart's almost a 10-pound sword, and it's beautiful. It's long. It's about 5 feet something long, and it's actually a battle-ready sword. You could actually use it.
Yeah.
I practice with it.
A saber.
Wow, yes, because you've done all kinds of martial arts,
I
haven't
have for a long time, since I was about 10, and I've loved swords forever. I think that they're just incredible, just from the swordsmanship and everything. And the William Wallace sword is probably one of the most classical, beautiful, heavy swords out there. It's a long sword, a broadsword, and it was wielded quite well by the Scots. It was pretty cool sword. Yep. Fun stuff. All right, well, I think we're about ready to start, so why don't we... okay, I think we're good. So we're going to start in 3, 2, and 1. Everyone, welcome to Tech. Hello. Let me start this over again. I can't believe it. So we're going to start that again. Maybe it helps if I know what show I'm in, doesn't it?
It's just the two ladies getting you confused.
Yeah. Here we go. 3, 2, and 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk, it's knowledge. And today I've got two guests, two co-hosts, and they're with us right now. We've got Linda Joy, who has some news for us today, and then we've got Lesley Price, who doesn't have any news for us today, but joined us as a co-host. Well, she does have some news, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, here we go. We are back. Well, today's sort of bittersweet because Linda, who's been co-hosting not quite a year, but getting close to, I think July would be a year, Linda's going to be moving on. Not that she doesn't like doing the show, but she's got some new kind of direction she's going. And not new, it's actually she's going back to what she's always done, which she's been very good at, which is a lot of gaming and voiceover work for gaming and acting and all of that. So we're going to lose her at least as a full-time co-host. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what she's going through and something that a lot of us are going through at different points in our lives and that we can all benefit from. And joining us as well, she's been a co-host for the last 2-3 weeks, is Lesley Price, who I call affectionately Emma Peel, and she is the Queen of e-learning in the UK, but she is from Scotland.
That's very kind of you to say.
Yes. And Lesley, as a lot of people may not know, has a degree in business and marketing. So it's all, you're going to see it's all going to tie together, because part of what Linda's doing is she's remarketing herself. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Linda?
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah, remarketing myself. I think for the last couple of years, I've just been trying to fit in, and also told myself, well, I only have my own studio, and I'm kind of in the middle of America, and so I can't do what I used to do, which is more animation and more in video game work. And I've kind of rediscovered that, yes, absolutely I can. I can plug clients in. More clients, more companies are willing to record you, even though you're not in their town, can't come to their studio. And I've just decided I need to be brave, I can be brave, and do what I'm really best at.
Which is interesting, because it's what you've always been good at.
Yes, I did animation over in Europe for 16 solid years. That was absolutely my market. That was my thing. Mm-hmm. And since I've switched to working in the United States, now I did commute back to Germany for a while. But of course, after a while, commuting from America to Germany, that just gets too much. But yeah, when I built my studio here, I tried to be normal, just do normal reads, narration, stuff like that. And now I'm discovering now that it's really become more available and more possible to do where my strengths lie, that I really need to start marketing and branding myself in that direction again.
And it was funny, yesterday we talked on the phone, and when she answered the phone, it was, hello. I went, whoa, who's that? And I thought, wait, she's in character. And she was. She had done something earlier in the morning. She stayed in character, and her voice was a lot deeper. And totally threw me for a loop. I was going, gee, I never thought she went that low. You have a low register when you want it.
Yes, I'd just done this character that was really, really low, and she was old, and she had kind of this cracky, kind of broken voice, and that's how she spoke, and that's how I answered the phone when I talked to you.
Yes, you did, and it was fun. It was like, okay, where are we going with this? It was funny. Now, Lesley, you were talking about having some experience in branding and branding yourself and everything else. What would you add to what Linda's saying?
It's difficult. It's a difficult one, because obviously, my degree was in business economics, but also in marketing, at a time where marketing was actually a relatively new subject to people. People were used to advertising, people were used to seeing stuff on the TV, but the university that I went to, the University of Strathclyde, actually set up their degree in marketing in 1971, which was very, very, very early. And I started studying there in 76, and I actually studied under a person called Professor Michael Baker, and he eventually went on to head up the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. So it was very, very different. And one of the, we talked about consumer behavior, we talked about vendor buying behavior, we talked about all different things, and not only how they applied to products, but how they applied to the people that they were getting to promote their products. So communication and branding was actually a big part of what we did, or what I did as part of my degree.
And really, since the inception of the internet, and especially even more so social media,
Oh yeah,
many
it's
people,
changed.
it's changed so much because we are now more and more branding ourselves. We're not letting somebody
Yes.
brand us, we're branding ourselves so that the correct profile is out there, the correct message we want is out there. And I think in what Linda's doing, it's something she's always done. So she's leveraging her past experience, which is pretty deep, with her current experience and how the internet's helping that out. Because, like you said, you used to have to be in a studio, you used to have to fly different places. You can now literally do it remotely, and it sounds as good as if you're in studio.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that. But you mentioned the internet and social media. I think people have to understand that the way you behave on the internet now and the way you behave on social media actually has a huge impact on how people perceive your brand. So I
Yes.
think the two are very much entwined.
Yes, I agree. Part of why you're hired would be how you're perceived, besides the fact how your clients trust you to do good work, but also how you're perceived. And Leslie, I just wanted to mention here, I mean, you're such an early adopter of all of these things. I mean, I remember when we interviewed you, I mean, all the things you were up to early on. Like you say, you were studying marketing when marketing wasn't even really a thing.
No, I was weird.
In a good way.
I hope so. I hope so. I like to think that what I learned then, I like to think I've been able to then put into practice in not only what I would describe as my own personal brand, but also when I'm trying to engage people in learning. And I'm sure you do exactly the same, Linda. I'm sure you do exactly the same.
Yes, in my field.
Yeah.
In fact, one thing we were talking about last night as we were discussing this whole concept of branding and social media and everything is that we're all a little bit older than 40. We've been around a while. We were taught to be humble. On the internet now, that's not necessarily what's pushed. You have to promote yourself beyond all else, which is sort of an interesting thing because I've known Linda for a while and she's always been very humble about what she's done and how she's done it. She'll never brag about all the things she's very good at. And I gather also, Leslie, you're about the same. You're not one to just toot your horn and say, I am the Emma Peel of e-learning. You don't do that. You're just,
No,
that's my
what
line.
You
That's
called me,
yes,
Rick.
yeah. See, I can do that for you, but if you did it for yourself, people would go, "Who is Emma Peel?"
Yeah.
And for those who remember, they would go, "Oh, Emma Peel, really?"
Avengers.
Yes, the Avengers. And but that is something that we do see, which also requires a certain amount of rebranding, is that a lot of people may not know who you are or what you are from a social media perspective unless you specifically go out of your way to let them know who and what you are. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yes, for sure. And it's very hard, I think, to find a happy medium when you are somebody that's uncomfortable about directly bragging about themselves. It's hard to find a way to toot your horn, but in a healthy way, not in a let me blast out to the world this and this and this, and I'm this and I'm that. But also, I think for me, finding avenues where I can say things that are also helpful to others, and where it's more about coming alongside other people and joining them where they are and maybe helping them a step further because I've been down that road or because that's my métier and that's my niche and that's where I work and how I work. I found that a way healthier and nicer way, and for me, more comfortable way of tooting my horn.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree. Absolutely 100% agree. I always believed and have always believed in credit where credit's due. And I think by nurturing other people and
Yes.
building other people's skills, and then people say, oh, where did you learn that? And how did you do that? And what helped you? I can give you a very good example. We are delighted at Learn Appeal. We've now got an intern. We only had today, we've now got an intern that's going to be working with us. And she sent me a lovely email tonight because I introduced her to about 4 or 5 people today and also gave her access to different tools that we're using. And she just said, wow. And this is just in one day. So I don't think I necessarily always have to say, this is me. If you're kind to other people, if they deserve credit, you do it, you give them a chance, you give them the opportunity, and then they will be the ones who will say, I'm just really enjoying what I do.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I discovered something the other day. Every now and then something makes me think of somebody, a colleague of mine or something, will prompt me. And I thought, really, I always do that. Then I usually write them an email. I thought of you today, and just tell something that made me think of them. And I usually get wonderful response. And I thought to myself, well, actually, this is kind of marketing too. Not that I meant it that way, but I thought I need to just do this more consciously because it's a part of my personality. To just reach out to somebody and say, oh, this and this made me think of you because you've had a similar situation, or this is part of your branding and I saw something similar, but I think yours is great. And it by lifting other people up, like you were saying, Lesley, by, in your case, introducing them to things that they didn't think they'd be introduced to, I think we really benefit from that, and we don't realize that enough.
Well, also in both of your cases, and I know what Lesley does with Learn Appeal and what you like as far as being a voice talent and an actress, it's not just that. You like also bringing other people along. And
Yes.
really there's a component of service to both of what you do, because it's not just doing what you're good at, but it's also bringing other people along for the ride, if you will. Bring them up with you. What is it? What's that old saying? Rising tide lifts all ships.
Rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I also think, I know this is probably going to sound a bit crass and a bit awful, but how you look and the way you present yourself and the language that you use with people and the tone that you use with people is also equally important.
Right.
So we're on video now, but we're not all sitting, and we're all in our own homes, apart from you, Rick, you're in a studio, but we're not sitting in our pajamas.
No. You could be, but you're not.
Yeah, but I think that is also, so I think it's not just, it's the way you behave in company, the way you carry yourself, and sometimes it's appropriate to wear really smart gear.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's appropriate to be in jeans and a t-shirt.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. From my experience, when I was a voice talent in Munich, the moment I found this shop that had this fabulous array of designer clothes that weren't too expensive and they really were my style, that's also when I started directing a lot. One thing I realized after I'd been here a couple of years, I thought, well, I'm not like better than anybody else. I'm not necessarily more talented. Why, I had so much work in the studios, and I think in part it had to do with the energy I brought to the studio, the positivity, the how engaged I like to be in my work, and it just creates an atmosphere and it pulls others along. And I really do think in hindsight that contributed hugely to my income. Now that I'm by my own little self in my own little studio, I don't have that. I kind of put it laughingly I say, well, it's like I'm working with my entire personality tied behind my back. Because I'm not in a studio, so I can't so much. I have emails, you can kind of express how you are, how you react, how promptly you deliver work that you've been hired for. Those are signs, those are things you can do. But you don't have, nobody sees you, with your hair nice and nicely dressed and those things.
But I'm sure a lot of that then is to do when you reply to emails. It's also the tone of language that you use.
Yes.
And if you're late replying to an email, apologize. Just say,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've been busy. Everybody knows what that feels like. So you acknowledge. And I think also it's a lot to do with the language that you use with people. And one of the problems one of the things I've noticed with people who work in learning, and particularly in learning technologies, is there's lots of different languages. There's the language of the C-suite, so the senior management team. There's the language of learning, and there's the language of the IT people. And very often, part of what I consider my personal branding is I see myself sometimes as a translator.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can play different roles, but I think if to work in learning, and I would imagine if you're doing voiceover, Linda, my goodness, you must be a translator.
Yes, often so. Yes.
And I don't mean literally in one language to another.
No.
But different types of uses of language.
Absolutely. And that comes from, used to be, we were always hired by production companies. And now, moreover, we are hired by people who don't necessarily solely hire voice talent. They do other things. This is just kind of like, okay, we need to voice that too, so let's hire some voice talent. It's a different lingo, for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that when you hire voice talents, you are hiring their ability to talk your language when needed, or the language of whatever course you're creating, or whatever marketing venue you're creating. It's a lot of people think, I've got a great voice. How am I going to get a job? I can be a voiceover talent. Yeah, but you got to be able to read. You have to emote. You have to know when to use your voice. You have to know how to use your voice. And that's why a lot of voiceover talents never really make it anywhere, because they think they have the voice, but that doesn't mean they know how to use it.
Yes.
And that's,
very little has to do with your voice.
Right. It's what you do with your voice and how you come across. They've done a lot of studies that, for example, when you're talking to somebody on the phone and you're smiling, they know it. Mm-hmm. They actually know it. You can't fake being genuine. I mean, you can try, but it doesn't work too well. And even if you can for a while, you're not going to be able to do it for long. And so that's part of it. Who are you really, and what are you, and how do you come across? So if in summing this up, Linda, if you had to think of one thing in particular that somebody should be aware of when branding themselves to what they want to do, what do you think that would be?
I don't know if I could say it would be this or this, but I think branding yourself takes more knowledge of yourself than one would at first think. Mm-hmm. I think branding yourself actually grows. It grows with you. Now, to translate that into a visual, it would be like, for instance, okay, this might be my own thing might be a good Beispiel, might be a good example. Linda Joy. So in Germany, Joy, the J is a ja. Linda Joy, okay, so now she's Linda Joy. Well, if she's Linda Joy, that must be a stage name. Well, she can't speak German. Well, so there was always that. And there was never the connection with Joy. Here in the United States, everybody goes, oh, you're such a joy, and I'm sure you've heard that. And
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't until I was in the United States, after doing this for years and years and years, that I let Joy become my brand. And I made a little Joy, so I made a little microphone, so the J, and then the O is the microphone capsule, and the Y is then the kind of stand of the microphone. I also just went with the joy. I had my tagline, find joy. Over my demos, I have enjoy. Over my contact page, discover joy. But as you would think that with a name like Linda Joy, you would use that for your branding. But in my case, because I lived in Germany, it just didn't make sense. And here it started to make sense.
Now, see, you have a name you could actually use for that. I'm thinking, Leslie has sort of a name. You could name your price. I mean, what do we do with price? What do we do with price? The price is right. Right? Mine, forget it.
There was a TV program in the UK at one point, The Price is Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, it was actually hosted by somebody called Leslie.
Oh, how funny.
Oh, no, how funny.
Yeah,
well,
and forget my name. What do you do with my name? You're hopeless. There's nothing you can do with my name.
Lesley Price, priceless.
Priceless.
You know, something like that.
Priceless.
Yeah, there's lots you can do around it. I just think it's important to be natural and to give, but also to recognize that you as an individual, or one as an individual, has an awful lot of control over your brand, an awful lot of control over your personal brand. You are the one who, despite when you get out of bed in the morning and you don't feel like getting up and you've had a bad however many days, you're the one that can then go into a meeting, put a smile on your face and listen to what other people are saying. You do have a great deal of control over it. And I think it's important that people recognize and enjoy that control.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't just have to be what somebody else wants you to be. You can actually be what you want to be.
Yep.
Yes. And I think one thing with branding, possibly it's overrated. I don't even know that, but I do think that there shouldn't be this much pressure to brand yourself. It doesn't have, if you're thinking of how is my brand going to look like? Will I have a logo? Will I have this? How will I present myself? Well, like you said, Leslie, you present yourself friendly. You present yourself willing to work. You present yourself enhancing to the atmosphere. That's a great branding, and you can take that a step further and a step further and a step further. Essentially, you are the only one. Jonathan Tilley, who's a branding specialist, he describes it this way. He says, take a glass of water, and you know that the content is great, and people can see the glass. But how do you tell people? How do you communicate to people who haven't taken a sip yet, so to say, that this content really is great? And I think that comes with time, and that comes with discovery, and doesn't have to be there the moment you start up a business. Does that make sense?
I would agree, and I think another important thing, particularly, I mean, this is eLearnChat, so to bring it back a bit to learning, another important thing is honesty. I think trust and honesty and integrity are very, very important. You know, maybe because it's a family is Scottish, but you know, it's not. Yes, it's not quite. You're only as good as your last success. But my mother used to always tell me, I know when you're not telling me the truth. I can just tell. I can see it in your face. And I wouldn't say that necessarily scared me as a child, but it made me think about honesty when I'm dealing with other people and how important that actually is, because the truth will always out.
Yes.
And for 30 years, you've been looking at yourself going, how do I hide that expression? I don't know.
I know. Did you like it?
Well, ladies, I think this was good. It's good for people to kind of be aware of some of the things that are branding, that are you, how you present who you are and how people perceive you, because that's ultimately the goal of marketing, is to bring people to you, not necessarily for you to go to them. It's to attract people, to have people say, I don't know what it is, but there's something about that person I want to get closer to, professionally, personally, whatever. But it's all there. And Leslie, Linda, before we take off, I want to thank you so much for having been with us and sharing really your genuineness and your smile and your interest in the guests we've had and everything else. You've been a trooper, and from the beginning, a lot of people really thought you were an e-learning expert, and that's just really doing your research. And
I did.
And yeah, a lot of people did. And she would research people and learn about them, and not just learn just so she could have a quick line, but to actually find out more about them and be able to talk intelligently about what they did. And my gosh, it worked. It worked beautifully because people took a liking to you. And I've gotten a lot of notes from people saying, had a great time on the show, loved Linda, she was great.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Rick. And thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, and Leslie, you're special too. You're very special. We'll keep the show going, and we'll keep on with guests, and we really do appreciate, and I really do appreciate what you've done for the show and how you helped, because you really did help out of nowhere. I just said, you want to be on the show? And she goes, okay, sure.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and it was really, really fun. I mean, it's stretched me. I really enjoyed it. I really did.
And you were good on it. And Leslie, you too, you're a natural. You just kind of fall into that co-host type thing, and again, you know a lot about the industry, and people know it. Not to mention you're the M appeal of e-learning, so nobody will mess with those kids.
Apart from that, I'm a very inquisitive person,
right?
And I hope I'll be able to do some more co-hosting with you. But my kind of news is I've got builders starting in the house a week on Monday.
Oh, she's not kidding. She's doing a major home. You're basically almost tearing your whole home down.
Yes, I'm keeping the framework.
Yep.
But everything, including the chimneys, are coming down.
That's a lot of work.
Oh my goodness! Are you going to be living in the house while they're doing that?
Yes, me and my cat.
Oh.
That's pretty good.
Good luck with that.
Well, anyway, in the future, we look forward to seeing both of you here again. And if you're watching the show, say goodbye to Linda. She won't be gone. She'll just be gone from us for a while. And say goodbye to Leslie, who's going to be in the middle of some massive home repairs. And we hope to have Leslie back on later on in the year. So... Again, appreciate.
I mean, if I've managed to maintain internet connection, I might be able to do it in between.
Okay.
But I just don't want to make any commitments when walls are coming down.
No, I know how that is. It'd actually be kind of fun on a show in the middle of the show. Hello, I'm Lesley Price.
Yes.
That was just the ceiling came down. We're fine. Yep. That'd be fun. Well, anyway, if you're watching the show, please subscribe. Give us your feedback. Send notes to these two lovely ladies, and we'll put their show contact information too. So if you do need to get a hold of anybody, you can. And with Leslie, she is doing some incredible stuff with Learn Appeal, which is really to help people in underprivileged areas, the third world, and elsewhere to become self-sufficient. What's better? You don't give people handouts; you hand them up, you bring them up, and that's what she's working at, and that's a great thing. And Linda. I'm sure we're going to hear you more and more in some of those games everybody likes to play and all the other things that we do. So, and you are somebody who brings joy. So your name is very apropos. It's a great name. So thanks to you guys, and we'll see you next week on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone.
Me,
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you again, Linda.
Bye. Thanks, Rick.